Hey guys, welcome to the first of a handful of recap videos from my recent 1,700 mile road trip through Arizona, Utah, and Colorado. In this video we are leaving Phoenix, Arizona in my 2002 Nissan Sentra SE-R Spec-V and heading north to the south rim of the Grand Canyon through some of Arizona's best driving roads. If you are unfamiliar with the car, be sure to check out my channel and subscribe if you are interested in seeing more. Made a quick pit stop in Wickenburg, Arizona to get some breakfast and grab this quick drone shot, then we were back on the road. This route is very popular with car enthusiasts who are looking for a nice day trip away from the city with cooler temperatures and fantastic driving roads. Shortly after passing through a small town called Congress, you begin the climb up what is known as the White Spar Highway. The ascent is a multi-lane and spacious road where you can maintain a higher pace, but the descent is actually elevated above the other lanes and is mostly a narrow single-lane affair that is quite fun if you decide to return to Phoenix on the same route. After driving through the towns of Yarnell and Wilhoit, you arrive at the first major section of road where things start to get interesting. This section of Highway 89 is what I refer to as Prescott Mountain. It's a tight, two-lane road that runs for 10 to 12 miles with almost non-stop corners. If you have never been on this road and would like to try it out, I do recommend trying to get here early or on a weekday to avoid traffic. There are not many places to pass and people do take it slowly. As you can tell from the video, I was taking it easy since I had a long trip ahead of me. I didn't feel like rushing anything, but I will definitely return soon to have another go at it. Once you reach the top, you arrive in the small town of Prescott, Arizona. I stopped briefly to take some drone shots near downtown, then headed towards the Highway 89-89A interchange after stopping to top off the fuel tank. After taking a left onto Highway 89A and reaching Mingus Mountain, the next fun road begins. This one also stretches for about 10 miles and ends at the old mining town of Jerome, Arizona. Same recommendations apply here, go early or on a weekday, and there are no separate passing lanes. Before arriving in Jerome, I stopped to get some drone shots of the Verde Central mine. This mine sits on a fenced-off national forest property, and entry on foot is considered trespassing. As you can tell by the size of the waste rock pile, the interior workings are quite substantial. The main shaft is 1,900 feet deep. Last operations here ceased in 1929, and the main commodities were copper, silver, and gold. Once in Jerome, if you hang a left at the fire station, it takes you to a parking lot in front of the massive United Verde mine. This mine was started in 1876 and stopped production officially in 1953. It had nearly 81 miles of underground workings before open pit mining started around 1920 due to a sulfur fire that halted production. Open pit operations stopped in 1940. The United Verde mine, along with the United Verde extension mine, yielded over 3.5 billion pounds of copper worth between $6 and $7 billion in today's money. Hey guys, so we are at what I think is pronounced Tuzagut National Monument. We're just going to take a walk around and look at it. It's mostly rebuilt ruins from many moons ago. So here's some footage for you to take a look, and then we'll get back on the road. This place is definitely cool, and I do recommend a stop if you are in the area. However, I much prefer seeing old ruins that are still intact from when the original occupants created them. Stuff you find in alcoves, up high on cliff sides, or tucked away in a corner somewhere. With that said, we move on to tourist capital of Arizona, Sedona. It was much easier for me to get through here on a Tuesday morning. This place is usually packed on the weekends, and the traffic is almost always terrible. Continuing north on the 89A will take you through Oak Creek Canyon, some of the best scenery in the state. Very popular in the summertime due to lower temperatures, great camping, and opportunities to swim in the creek. finished the climb out of Oak Creek Canyon, the rain started to fall. Typically I try to keep my fun cars out of the rain so I can keep them as clean as possible underneath. Makes them a little easier to work on, but it is what it is. A short jog out of Oak Creek Canyon and we arrive in Flagstaff, Arizona. These drone shots were tricky because I had to submit a request for FAA approval to fly, but once I got into a spot they were happy with and I submit the request, it was approved immediately. After a couple stops for food and fuel, we're heading north out of Flagstaff on US 180. This is the slightly slower but more scenic route to the Grand Canyon. One last highway transfer from the 180 to the 64 and we're on the home stretch. With that said, we have arrived at the south rim of the Grand Canyon where we will be camping for the night. This will conclude day one of the trip, and I will leave you with some spectacular views of the Grand Canyon. Stay tuned for the next video where we complete the drive from here to Zion National Park in Utah. If you like what you see and are interested in more videos, make sure to subscribe for future releases. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Alright, since I forgot to do an outro for the day one video, here is an intro for the day two video. So we've got everything all packed up, tent and everything. It is 8:16 a.m. The place that I'm going, we're actually going to be staying in a small cabin for the next 2 nights near Zion National Park, and the check-in time is 4 p.m. So we've got plenty of time to just cruise and check stuff out and get some good drone shots if we can. There's a place that I'd like to get drone shots, but it's not allowed. So yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get on the road, and we'll probably make a few stops along the Grand Canyon rim on the way out, and then we'll stop in Cameron and get gas and maybe some breakfast and head north. So let's go. Alright guys, I think that was our last stop looking at the Grand Canyon, and so now we're going to head east towards Cameron, top off the tank, and maybe get something to eat, and then we're going to start heading north. Alright, just stopped and filled up and got some breakfast, and so we're gonna go just down the road here a little ways and get some drone shots of the Cameron Bridge, and then we'll head north and end up at the Navajo Bridge shortly after. So let's go. Built in 1911, the old Cameron Suspension Bridge was the longest suspension bridge west of the Mississippi River. In 1937, while a large herd of sheep were crossing, it was damaged and nearly collapsed. Repaired and put back in service for highway traffic, it was eventually replaced by the concrete bridge next to it in 1959. The old Cameron Bridge played an important part in the construction of the Navajo Bridge, and in 1986 it was added to the National Register of Historic Places. The Navajo Bridge was completed in 1929 and carries Highway 89A over Marble Canyon and the Colorado River as it meanders its way towards the Grand Canyon. Originally called the Grand Canyon Bridge, state legislature changed the name to Navajo Bridge in 1934. It was replaced by the newer bridge built next to it in 1995 and later added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1981. Both of these bridges are tied for 9th place among the highest bridges in the US at 467 and 470 feet. Unfortunately, I couldn't get drone footage here due to restricted airspace around the Grand Canyon. All right, we just pulled up something called the Moki Cave, also known as the Sand Caves. So we're gonna go and do a short hike and take a look at those. And then there's actually a restaurant right over here that is built into the caves here, I guess. And they do like smoothies and stuff, so I might wander in there and buy a smoothie. So let's go check this out. Well, there's an old car upside down right there. A couple more down here buried in the sand. Right up in there. Alright, took a little bit of effort to get up here. You have to like basically climb a vertical cliff of sandstone that's slippery. But we're almost there. Might be able to see the people in the distance over there going down, so that's how you got to get up. This is pretty neat. It's very dark back there. The sand caves are man-made and were created through sand mining in the 1970s. This sand was then used for glass production. They are located about 5 miles north of Kanab, Utah, and access to them is free via a short hike from 2 separate parking lots. It's a little deep. Probably should have put my hiking shoes on. Well, there you have it. The Moki Cave, also known as the Sand Caves. It was actually a sand mine. It's just a mine for sand. All right, now I gotta climb back down. Ooh. Almost twisted my ankle. All right, I was gonna get a smoothie, but there is a field trip here with a bunch of middle school girls, and there's a huge line, and I don't feel like waiting in it, so we're just gonna head on out the road. All right, so at this point into the park, we were nearing the long tunnel that takes you towards the town of Springdale, where I was staying for a couple nights. I had put the camera on top of the car to get what should have been a great shot going through said tunnel and the big reveal when you exit. Unfortunately, I just didn't time it right with the traffic because I thought we were going to stop again before getting there. We didn't, and I had already turned the camera off so that it wasn't running while we weren't moving. Pretty upset that I didn't get that shot, but here are a few others from the same view. Alright, this is Jason from the future on day 3. I forgot to do a outro for the day 2 video, so this is basically the outro for the day 2 video. Day 3, I'm actually not going to film today. I'm going to do a bunch of hiking in Zion. I'm going to leave the camera here today and just go out and enjoy myself. Basically just staying in this little cabin. And it's been okay, but the walls are super thin and you hear everything, so if people are outside just talking in the campsite behind you until 11 o'clock at night, you're gonna hear them. But other than that, it's not terrible. So anyway, not filming today. So the next video will be day 4, and that will be us heading towards Colorado. And we will we'll see you there. morning on day 4, so we have already left Zion. I stopped at Mount Carmel Junction and topped off the fuel tank, did some windshield cleaning, and now we are headed north towards Bryce Canyon. Alright, so here we are at Bryce Canyon National Park. I forgot to get video of the sign, but it was swamped with people anyway. Basically what I did when I got here was take the main road south through the park all the way until it dead ends at Rainbow Point. Then worked my way back north towards the entrance, stopping at several of the viewpoints along the way. Most of the viewpoints in the southern half of the park are right along the road with minimal parking, one exception being the Natural Bridge Overlook, which has plenty of parking. Once you get to the turnoff for Bryce Point, the parking lots get bigger and so do the amount of people. By the time I got to Sunset Point, the most popular spot due to it being the starting location for multiple popular hikes, there were so many people that I was directed to park in an overflow lot that was a good distance away. Thankfully, as I was being told to do that, someone was backing out of a spot in front of me and I was able to park there. Unfortunately, the one small hike I wanted to do was to go down Wall Street, but it was closed due to trail repairs caused by storm damage. After we were done at Sunset Point, I got back on the road headed east. State Highway 12 ends when it intersects Highway 24 in Torrey, Utah. I stopped here briefly to top off the fuel tank and then headed east on Highway 24. Here's a look at the Meeks Mesa area by drone. This was my last opportunity for drone shots before we crossed into Capitol Reef National Park. I did stop here to look at some ancient petroglyphs, however you couldn't make them out in the video, so I decided to cut them out. For now, enjoy a nice little stroll next to the Fremont River along Utah State Route 24. Once we reach Hanksville, we're taking a left to continue on State Route 24 north towards Interstate 70. If you continue straight in Hanksville instead of taking the left, the highway turns into State Route 95, which takes you south towards Glen Canyon Recreation Area. Honestly, the rest of the trip from Hanksville to the Colorado state line is fairly boring, so I didn't bother filming much. The first major city you will come to while driving east on Interstate 70 is known as Grand Junction, famous for growing incredible peaches and not much else. This is where I was born and raised until my family moved to Arizona in the late 90s. Not long after I graduated high school, we moved back to Grand Junction, and then once again I moved back to Arizona a handful of years later and have been there ever since. However, lately I have been quite homesick and am trying my best to move back, permanently this time, but most jobs pay quite a bit less than I am making now, so it hasn't been easy with the economy the way it is. Here's a look at Mount Garfield. It's closer to a suburb known as Palisade, which is where the famous peaches come from. That area also has several places you can visit to taste and purchase wine. And one last shot here of the Grand Mesa, where locals go for cooler temps and fishing in the summer, or for skiing and snowmobile riding in the winter. Famously known as the largest flat-top mountain in the world, it has over 200 lakes on top of it. Alright guys, it is the morning of the last day. Technically tomorrow was supposed to be the last day, but there's some weather coming in, and roundabouts the Arizona, Utah, like the Four Corners area basically, it's going to be quite rainy later today. I did have a reservation for a campsite just south of Flagstaff tonight, and then we were going to finish off tomorrow morning. Because of the rain, I canceled that, and we're just going to make a straight shot home today. We're going to go down through Gateway, Colorado, and just south of that area there's a bunch of old uranium mines. I want to try and get some drone shots. Right now it's not raining. It's not supposed to rain until later in the day, so I'm hoping that we can get some drone shots of the uranium mines, but it is also a little windy, so I guess that's going to depend on the wind. So I just topped off, and we're going to get on the highway here, make an exit in Clifton, which is just to the east of Grand Junction, and then we're going to head south, get on the 141, take that to Gateway, do what we need to do south of Gateway, and then I'm not sure the highway number, but once you get to about Natarita, you can turn right and go west, and that'll meet up with Monticello, and then we'll just take the normal route south through Monument Valley and through Flagstaff. Yeah, I'm gonna hop on the highway, and we'll see how this day goes. Roughly a half mile west of mile marker 130, in the shadow of Thimble Rock, is the Driggs Mansion. It was built for a lawyer named Lawrence Driggs with help from 2 Italian stonemasons between 1914 and 1918. Lawrence only lived in the house for a short time, which was also used by cowboys that helped with his cattle operation on his ranch. Having spent most of his time in New York and Texas, he sold his successful cattle ranch in Texas and then built a homestead in Unaweep Canyon. In 1923, the stone house was sold to 3 local businessmen who turned it into a hunting lodge. It was later sold to a man named Jerome, who removed the roof of the house to prevent people from living in it and allowed neighbors to remove pieces from it. The property was eventually purchased by the Hendricks Family Foundation in 2005, and stabilization efforts were made in 2012 to prevent it from collapsing. The house is located on private land and is not open to the public. As you can see, the weather had cooperated nicely up to this point, and I was able to get quite a bit of time exploring the exterior of these mines by drone. If you are not familiar with this area, we are close to the former company town of Uravan, which was instrumental in supplying uranium to the government for the Manhattan Project and the first atomic bomb. Most of these mines played a part in the short history of Uravan, which is now an uninhabited and undeveloped Superfund site. Although a majority of these mines can be seen from the highway, it is advisable to avoid exploring them on foot for many reasons. So I was fine exploring them from the air, and there was plenty to see. I'm not sure what it is that draws me to old mines. I certainly am not a fan of modern day mining that results in large craters dug into the ground, but seeing these old mines and all the old infrastructure laying about is very interesting to me. Additional footage and historical information will be compiled into a separate video that will be uploaded 1 week after the release of this one. If you are seeing this video after June 2025, there should be a link up in the corner and in the description. Alright guys, as you can see, there were some pretty amazing mines along that route. I am headed towards Natarita right now, and then we're going to hang a right and head towards the Utah border, towards Monticello. There's some mines I want to try and get right around the border area, but out the windshield right now I'm looking at some very dark clouds and it is raining, so hopefully it's not raining in that spot. If you're like in the Colorado, Utah area, a really good route to take would be the 141 south through Gateway to the 90, which goes into Utah and goes back to Monticello. Then take the 191 north to Moab and take the 128 from Moab to Cisco along the river. That loop is incredible. Like, just there's no words to describe it. Like, I'm showing you clips out the windshield because that's the best I can do while I'm moving, and the view in front of me here is just, it's breathtaking. It's hard to put it into words, but I definitely recommend this area. You know, southwest Colorado into southeast and south central Utah is just, it's some of the best outdoorsy, scenic, anything that you can imagine in the western part of the country. So yeah, it's just incredible. at is the Wilson Arch, and I was gonna try and get some drone footage, but it's too windy. We're in the middle of these storms now, so there's areas where I can get it done and others where I just can't, and this is gonna be one of those areas. Basically, we are on the 191 now, so we're gonna head down through, we'll stop in Blanding and just hop off the tank, and then start heading through Monument Valley. I do want to get some drone shots in Monument Valley, so as long as it's not too windy, we'll do that. So yeah, let's get back on the road. Going through Monument Valley right now. I did have plans to get some drone shots here, but unfortunately it's still too windy. So kind of been in and out of the rain, but the wind has been pretty consistent, between 20 and 30 miles an hour. Too much for drone shots. So I've just been getting some extra, you know, on the road, out the windshield shots for you guys. I don't know if you can hear me very well, but I crossed over into Arizona, and they recently redid the road, and it looks good and it's smooth, but if you can hear that, it makes a lot of noise, and it also sends a lot of vibration through the steering wheel. Been on a lot of roads on this trip. Some of them were crap, some of them were okay, others were pretty good. This is probably the worst one I've been on so far. It looks good, it's smooth, but it's terrible. And with that, we've come full circle back to Cameron, Arizona, which is where we were on Wednesday, day 2. I think I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here, which also ends the series of the week-long vacation videos. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I know we didn't talk much in them, but I just try to let the look at these fools. Speed limit is 45 right here, and I'm doing 50. Anyways, I try to let the pictures speak for themselves. I took a lot more drone footage on this trip than I usually do. There would have been more today, but unfortunately it is extremely windy. Coming through Tuba City, Arizona, actually, I think the winds were at least 50 miles per hour. It was crazy. There was blowing dust, and I had the steering turned off to the left to keep it going straight, and it was crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. I want to thank all of you who have tuned in for the whole video series from start to finish, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.